Okay, welcome back. I'm back to talk about horror movies in the 2000s era. If you haven't seen the video previous to this, I would encourage you to check it out. Those were the horror movies from the 80s and 90s, things that us horror fans consider to be the ultimate supreme in horror movies. And now I'm going to talk about the 2000s. Um, the first movie on my list that I really liked from the 2000 era was Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers, the storyline was good. Now the second one I didn't really care for that much, and reviews or gossip says that there is a new Jeepers Creepers coming out next year, and it's gonna be in a western setting. And all I can say is I probably need to see the preview or something for it before I'm just dead set on it, because the storyline that I'm hearing so far is not that impressive. It veers far, far to the left. It's kind of like when they did Back to the Future and they put that one in the Western setting. It's okay, but just stick to what you know. So, Jeepers Creepers, yes. Joyride was another good one. Some people might not put this in a horror genre. I do, because I mean this guy was like grade A psycho crazy in the movie. But what I didn't understand was the person that they showed who was playing the killer, his voice was different than whose voice it is. I cannot remember this guy's name. I should have done my research, but I believe it is the same actor who played in Silence of the Lambs, who was like Buffalo Bill, and I'm almost certain that that is his voice that they're using in Joyride, like Candy Cane. I mean, it was pretty good. And one other thing that I want to mention now that we talk about Silence of the Lambs, I left that off of the 80s and 90s list, and I really wanted to say that two movies that got left off of that list was Candyman and Silence of the Lambs. Those are two very good movies that I did not put on the list. I should have. I really like both of those movies, and I just wanted to say that I'm not gonna go without mentioning them. They deserve to be mentioned. Um, Saw the original. Y'all already know how I feel about all these damn sequels. We just gonna stick to the script. So we love the original Saw. Very good. Wrong Turn. I've seen, I think, a remake of that showing up on Sci-Fi somewhere. I don't know about the remake, but again, we like originals. So Wrong Turn was good. The Hills Have Eyes. That was another remake that was done lovely. The original Hills Have Eyes came out in the early 80s, and it was redone in the 2000s. And I think redoing it really added, you know, to that whole, it really gave you another perspective on Hills Have Eyes. The monsters were updated. You know, it was set in a current setting in this deserted area. It was really, really good. I did not particularly care for the second one as much as the first one. But again, I'm one of these type of people. After I see something done right the first time, I don't think it's necessary to go back and do it again. If you don't do it right the first time and then you try to do it again and the sequel ends up being better than the original idea, that's one thing. But when you do a sequel and it ends up being worse than the original, or it just doesn't cut the mustard, then you just waste time. The Descent, about the chicks that go down into the cave and they get stuck in there, I love that. There was another movie that came out called The Cave, under the same type line where there's a monster in the cave or whatever, but The Descent I still thought was really good. The 28 Days Later series, by far, out of all the movies that I saw in the 2000 year, I'm gonna go out and stick my neck out. So, because I know some people are gonna probably try to chop me, but 28 Days Later, hand down, as far as new school horror movies and ideas, was the best horror movie that was done nice in a sequel. Because you had 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later, and all of this jazz. It was done nicely. It was innovative, great visual effects. The storyline really meshed, and everything just fell into place. I hadn't seen anything else in the 2000 year that was done like this, and it turned out that sequels sometimes are great. Underworld was another one. It was okay. You know, you had Underworld and Rise of the Lycans and all of this. The Underworld series in itself, standing alone, I would say it was decent. That first movie, it really made you think because you never really saw a battle between vampires and werewolves before. You've seen where people have tried to mix vampires and werewolves in the same movie, like Twilight, where they are battling each other, but in a way they kind of still get along. It's just really weird. Like, some things just don't go together. I come from a time where we always knew that vampires and werewolves did not mix together, and that was gonna be a fight to the death. It just didn't work. So, um, new school sci-fi movies, I put on my list World of Worlds, Daybreakers, I Robot, I Am Legend, Jumper. Those things, they're okay. Again, they're science fiction, so they're more fantasy based, but they still add, that horror element to it. My honorable mentions, things that just didn't quite make the list, but I think they're kind of worth mentioning. The Cell with Jennifer Lopez, because that movie had a very dark and grim side to it. And I was very surprised to see somebody like Jennifer Lopez playing a role like that, but I still think that that was a decent movie. Pitch Black with Vin Diesel, it's okay, science fiction kind of based. Dreamcatcher is another movie. I feel like it's honorable mention and it's on my regular list. I like Dreamcatcher because it holds true to Stephen King's vision of scaring you without really scaring you. Because Dreamcatcher, in all honesty, is not scary. It's more gross than anything. You got people dropping alien loads out their butt, and you got these aliens running around all over the place doing all this old crazy havoc. They're like spreading like some type of red seething. I don't really know what to call it. If you haven't seen Dreamcatcher, you should really check it out. It's very good. Resident Evil, of course, The Mist. I've already talked about The Mist. I thought it was great, even though it was a remake. That movie was really creepy. And the Resident Evil series, y'all know, based off a video game, was pretty cut and dry. I don't really think that was a movie where you could have went wrong at, because if you just stuck to the video game, you would be straight, right? So why they keep constantly redoing it is boggling to my mind, but teach his own. I mean, I felt like the first couple of times they did it, it was great, but now the storyline is getting way too complex. And when you start to do the storyline like this, you're going to confuse people. Because when I first watched the film, I was kind of like, okay, she's trapped in the honeycomb. They get out. They destroyed the monsters. They're gone. And now she keeps coming back. Like, dude, let it go. It's just not going to happen. It's not feasible. You will never beat this corporation. It's always going to be somebody that's going to come and take the next leader's place. It's kind of like Osama bin Laden. That's just a side note. Alright, one other thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap up for the 2000s. I know this was like a short list, but I'm not going to mention every movie that came out in 2000, because every movie that came out in 2000 ain't worth mentioning. I'm just going to be quite frank and honest. You guys are making some junk, and that's just that, just to make a buck, making junk. Scream, we saw that there was a new Scream movie that came out. The thing that made me so upset about Scream is that they waited so long to do a remake. Hell, I almost forgot what the damn movie was about. You waited so long. I mean, the first Scream, hands down, I don't have anything bad to say about that. It was well done. It had a lot of surprising elements, because you never really knew who the killer was. Who knew that Billy was going to turn out to be the killer? I mean, it just really like, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer with the Ben Willis character and the Slicker. It always threw you for a loop to see who the killer was in the end. Not like your traditional horror movies, other than like when I mentioned Silver Bullet that came out in the late 80s. How the pastor, Reverend Lowe, turned out to be the killer. Who would have even thought that this guy was going to be the killer? So again, the Scream series, you waited too long to do a remake. That time has passed. Let's move on and see something else, because constantly having these same movies come out with different players, and when I say different players, different people playing certain parts, doesn't really change anything. We've already seen Scream played now twice, and to be honest, the second sequel wasn't even all that good. It was okay, but you know, hands down, the first one was great. Um, that wraps up the 2000s list. If you guys have anything that you want to add, please post a comment. Share what your favorite movies are for the 2000 year. If you haven't seen the 80s to 90s video, go back and watch that one. If there's anything that I left off the list, feel free to add comments. Post your video comments. If you disagree, battle with me. Tell me why you disagree. The worst that can happen is what, we're going to get into a video battle on YouTube? No. I'm going to say what I want to say. You're going to say what you want to say. And at the end of the day, we're going to chalk it up as hard fans. Bottom line. So I'll see y'all when I come back for the third installation, which I'm just going to do a quick one over the what I call ultra new school, which are things that have come out within like the last year. Alright, peace.